Every single decision you make has an impact. Think about it. Your life today is the result of the choices you made yesterday. The job you have, the relationships you're in, the health you enjoy or struggle with, all of it comes down to the decisions you've made along the way. Some were small, like what you ate for breakfast. Others were massive, like where you chose to live or who you chose to trust. But when it comes to choosing a leader, choosing the person who will have the power to shape laws, economies, opportunities, and freedoms, that decision isn't just about you, it's about an entire nation. It's about millions of people. It's about the legacy you leave behind. Think about this. Every great empire, every thriving civilization, every period of growth and prosperity in history happened because the right leader was chosen at the right time. And every collapse, every crisis, every tragedy that nations have suffered happened because of poor leadership, because of decisions made without wisdom. Leadership is the force that either lifts a country to new heights or drags it into chaos. Now here's the truth most people don't think about. The president doesn't just make decisions for today. Their choices ripple into the future. Policies they create today could affect you 5 years from now, 10 years from now, even decades from now. A single law passed today could impact your children's education, your job security, your health care, your ability to thrive in the world. That's how powerful leadership is. It shapes the direction of an entire country and it determines whether that country rises or falls. But let's go even deeper, because this isn't just about the country, it's about you personally. The decisions that leadership makes directly affect your daily life. They determine the taxes you pay, the safety of your streets, the quality of the air you breathe, and the opportunities available to you. They decide whether businesses grow or collapse, whether innovation is encouraged or stifled, whether people succeed or struggle. Every law, every policy, every major governmental action starts with a choice. One choice made by the person sitting in that highest seat of power. So if you think your vote doesn't matter, think again. Your decision isn't just about a name on a ballot. It's about the direction of your future. Look at history. Look at countries that once thrived, but later crumbled because the wrong people were in charge. Look at nations that went from strength to weakness, from prosperity to poverty, because leadership made choices that led to economic failure, social division, or even war. And on the flip side, look at countries that were struggling but rose to greatness because they had a leader who knew how to turn things around. Decisions shape destiny. That's not just a saying, it's a fact. Let's bring it closer to home. Imagine you had two roads in front of you. One leads to growth, security, and progress. The other leads to instability, decline, and hardship. Which road would you take? Of course you'd choose the one that leads to success. But here's the thing, you're not the only one walking that road. The entire country is on that journey with you. And the person you choose to lead will decide which road the country travels. That's why choosing wisely isn't optional, it's essential. The biggest mistake people make is thinking that their vote is just a small action, that it's just one little mark on a ballot that doesn't mean much. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Every great leader, every great president, every person who has changed the course of history, good or bad, was put in power because people either voted for them or failed to stop them. Every election is a moment where the entire nation stands at a crossroads, and every voter is given the power to steer that country in one direction or another. So, what do you do? First, you have to be informed. You can't make a wise decision if you don't know the facts. Too many people vote based on emotion, because they feel angry, because they feel hopeful, because they were inspired by a speech or moved by a slogan. But emotions fade, real leadership lasts. You need to look beyond the words, beyond the ads, beyond the promises, and into the reality of what a leader has done before and what they're truly capable of doing in the future. Second, you have to think long term. Don't just vote based on how things feel today. Vote based on where you want to be in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. The leader you choose will either build that future or destroy it. And third, you have to take responsibility. The easiest thing to do is blame politicians when things go wrong. But here's the truth. Leaders don't put themselves in power, people do. If a country is suffering under bad leadership, it's because at some point people either chose that leader or allowed them to rise by staying silent. That means if you want change, you can't wait for someone else to fix things. You have to step up. You have to use your voice, your mind, and your power to make the right choice. Because at the end of the day, the future of your country is not just in the hands of the president. It's in the hands of the people who choose the president. And the choice you make today will determine the destiny you live tomorrow. Words are powerful. They can inspire revolutions, heal wounds, and unite nations. But they can also deceive, manipulate, and lead people down the wrong path. And when it comes to choosing a president, words alone are never enough. Every election season you hear the same thing. Promises of a better future, stronger economies, safer streets, and a government that will finally work for the people. Politicians step onto stages with big smiles, shaking hands, kissing babies, and delivering passionate speeches about how they're going to fix everything that's broken. They tell you what you want to hear because they know that words trigger emotions, and emotions, they drive decisions. But here's the problem. Talk is cheap. A real leader isn't defined by what they say, they're defined by what they do. And yet, election after election, people get swept up in the excitement of speeches, the carefully crafted campaign ads, and the empty rhetoric of politicians who have no real plan, no real track record, and no real intention of delivering on what they promise. Think about it. How many times have you heard a politician say they'll lower taxes, create millions of jobs, end corruption, or bring unity to a divided nation? And how many times has that actually happened the way they said it would? History is filled with leaders who made bold promises and then did the exact opposite once they were in power. They spoke of freedom but enforced control. They promised prosperity but led economies into collapse. They vowed to serve the people but only served themselves. And do you know why they got away with it? Because people believed their words without questioning their actions. That's why you must look beyond the speech. You must see past the carefully scripted debates, the rehearsed hand gestures, and the strategic pauses designed to make you feel something. Feelings fade. Facts remain. If you want to know whether a leader is worth your trust, don't listen to what they're saying about the future. Look at what they've done in the past. Have they followed through on previous commitments? Have they demonstrated integrity when no one was watching? Have they shown the ability to make tough decisions, even when those decisions were unpopular? Have they built anything of value, or have they only taken credit for the work of others? This is where most people make a mistake. They vote based on hope rather than history. Hope is important. It drives change. It fuels progress. But hope without evidence is dangerous. Hope without proof is what leads nations into failure. Now, let's talk about another way people get misled. Charisma. Some of the most dangerous leaders in history were the most charismatic. They could walk into a room and make people feel like they were the answer to every problem. They knew how to inspire, how to connect, how to make people believe in something bigger than themselves. And yet, once they gained power, they revealed their true nature. They weren't there to serve the people, they were there to serve themselves. That's why leadership is not about charm. It's not about how well someone can debate or how likable they are on TV. Leadership is about responsibility. It's about making decisions that may not be popular but are necessary. It's about standing firm in values, not shifting based on what's trending. Ask yourself this: if the cameras were off, if the crowds were gone, if there were no elections to win, what kind of person would this candidate be? Would they still fight for the people, or would they disappear into the shadows looking out only for themselves? Would they still have the same convictions, or are they just telling you what you want to hear to get your vote? The truth is, many politicians rely on the fact that most people won't do their research. They count on the fact that people will trust the sound bites, the viral moments, the headlines that barely scratch the surface. They assume that voters will base their decisions on who seems the most confident, the most relatable, the most exciting. But here's what you need to remember. Confidence is not competence. Just because someone sounds like they know what they're doing doesn't mean they actually do. Just because they tell you they care doesn't mean they actually will when it matters. That's why you must dig deeper. Look at how they've handled power in the past. If they've been in office before, what did they actually accomplish? If they're new to politics, what have they built outside of it? How have they treated the people who couldn't offer them anything in return? What have they done when no one was watching? And don't just listen to their version of the story. Listen to the people who have worked with them, the people who have seen them up close, the people who know what they're like when the cameras are off. Because at the end of the day, a real leader doesn't need to convince you with words. Their actions speak for themselves. When people vote, they often think about what's happening right now. They think about their current frustrations, their present struggles, and the problems they want fixed immediately. And that's understandable. When you're dealing with rising prices, job uncertainty, or political instability, you want a leader who will make things better now. But here's the truth. Elections aren't just about today. They're about the next 4 years, the next decade, and even the next generation. The leader you choose doesn't just affect your life in the moment. They set the course for where your country is headed long after they're gone. It's easy to be short-sighted when making a decision, especially when emotions are high. People get caught up in promises of instant relief, immediate benefits, and quick solutions. They want someone who will fix their current frustrations without thinking about the long-term consequences of those fixes. And that's where so many mistakes are made. History has proven time and time again that the leaders who think short-term often leave behind a mess that others have to clean up. They make decisions to win elections, to boost their popularity, or to create the illusion of progress, but those decisions come with a cost. Maybe they spend recklessly, creating temporary prosperity that eventually leads to economic collapse. Maybe they implement policies that feel good in the moment, but weaken the country's foundation over time. Maybe they create division instead of unity, making it harder for future generations to come together and solve problems. And here's what most people don't realize. True leadership isn't about making people happy today. It's about making sure they can thrive tomorrow. Think about the greatest leaders in history, the ones who built nations, created opportunities, and strengthened societies. They didn't just focus on winning the next election cycle. They focused on building something that would last. They made tough decisions that weren't always popular at the time, but were necessary for long-term success. That's what you should be looking for in a president. Ask yourself, is this person only focused on the next 4 years, or are they building something for the next 40? Are they making promises that sound good now, but could hurt the country in the long run? Are they investing in the future, or are they just trying to maintain power in the present? One of the biggest areas where short-term thinking causes damage is the economy. A leader might promise to lower taxes, increase benefits, or boost government spending, all things that sound great in the moment. But if they don't have a solid, sustainable plan, those decisions can lead to national debt, inflation, and economic collapse down the road. On the flip side, a leader who makes responsible financial choices might not give you an immediate boost, but they'll create stability that allows the economy to grow for years to come. The same applies to education. A leader who truly cares about the future won't just talk about fixing schools today. They'll invest in policies that ensure future generations have access to quality education, job opportunities, and technological advancements that will keep the country competitive on a global scale. Security is another major area where short-term versus long-term thinking matters. A president who only focuses on the immediate crisis might make quick decisions that provide temporary relief but create bigger problems later. Maybe they cut military spending to free up funds for other projects, not realizing that doing so could weaken national defense in the long run. Maybe they make deals with foreign leaders that seem beneficial today but put the country at a disadvantage years from now. And then there's the issue of social unity. A true leader doesn't just focus on getting elected. They focus on bringing people together so that future generations can thrive. Unfortunately, some politicians rely on division, pitting one group against another because it helps them gain power. They use fear, anger, and resentment to rally support. But what happens when their term is over? The damage is already done. The people are more divided than ever, making it harder for the next leader to govern effectively. A great president doesn't think that way. They don't just look at what will get them applause today. They look at what will make the country stronger tomorrow. So, how do you recognize a leader who thinks long term? First, look at their track record. Have they built things that lasted, or have they only made temporary fixes? Have they been willing to make tough choices even when those choices weren't popular? Have they shown the ability to delay gratification for the sake of long-term success, or are they only focused on what's convenient in the moment? Second, look at their policies. Are they focused on real solutions, or are they just offering Band-Aid fixes? Are they planning for the next generation, or are they making promises they can't keep just to win votes? Third, look at their vision. Do they talk about where they want the country to be in 10, 20, or 50 years, or are they only focused on today's headlines? True leaders see beyond the present. They understand that the actions they take now will determine the kind of world future generations will inherit. And finally, look at who they surround themselves with. A leader who thinks long-term builds a team of experts, advisors, and visionaries who understand the big picture. They don't just hire people who tell them what they want to hear. They hire people who challenge them to make smarter decisions. The most dangerous thing a voter can do is choose a president based on short-term benefits without considering long-term consequences. The excitement of a campaign, the energy of a rally, the appeal of a great speech, none of that matters if the person behind it isn't capable of building a sustainable future. Every decision a leader makes today will shape the reality of tomorrow. In a world where billions of people live under governments they didn't choose, where freedom is a distant dream, and where entire generations suffer under the weight of corrupt leadership, you have something extraordinary. You have the power to choose. The ability to vote is not just a civic duty. It is a privilege, a weapon, a tool that can shape the future of a nation. And yet too many people throw that power away. Some don't vote because they think their voice doesn't matter. Some don't vote because they believe all politicians are the same. Some don't vote because they think the system is broken beyond repair. But here's the truth. When you choose not to vote, you are still making a choice. You are allowing someone else to decide your future for you. Think about that for a second. If you don't take control of your own destiny, someone else will. If you don't show up, the people who do vote will determine what kind of country you live in. And the people who want power the most, the ones who are willing to manipulate, lie, and deceive, they're counting on you to stay home. They're counting on you to be apathetic. They're counting on you to believe that your vote doesn't matter. Because the moment you stop believing in your own power, they win. But here's what you need to understand. Change is never made by the silent. Progress is never built by the indifferent. Power is never taken from the corrupt by those who sit on the sidelines. Every great movement, every revolution, every moment in history where people took back control, it started because enough individuals decided that their voice, their choice, their vote mattered. Now let's break this down even further. Some people say one vote won't change anything, but history has proven that one vote can change everything. There have been elections decided by a handful of votes. There have been policies, laws, and leaders who gained power or lost it because of the narrowest of margins. And it's not just about one vote, it's about the collective power of millions of people who, together, decide the fate of a country. Imagine you're on a sinking ship. You have a life raft, but it requires effort to get to it. Would you sit still and let the ocean take you, or would you fight to survive? That's what voting is. It's the difference between being a passive observer in your own life and taking control of the direction you want your country to go. And let's talk about another excuse people use. I don't like either candidate, so I just won't vote. Listen, you don't have to love a candidate. You don't have to agree with them on every single issue, but this isn't about picking your best friend. It's about choosing the person who will do the least harm, the person who will make the best decisions for the most people, the person who will keep the country stable enough for you to keep fighting for the change you want to see. Sitting out an election because you don't like the options is like refusing to eat because you don't like what's on the menu. Eventually, hunger will make the choice for you. And when you refuse to vote, others will make the choice for you. And you might not like what they decide, but here's another important truth. Voting isn't just about the presidency. So many people think elections only matter every 4 years when it's time to pick a president. But the truth is, local elections, state elections, congressional elections, these are just as important, sometimes even more so. The president doesn't make every decision. They don't run your local schools. They don't set the policies that directly affect your community. They don't control your city's budget or the way laws are enforced at a local level. That's what governors, mayors, city officials, and members of Congress do. And guess what? Those people are also elected by voters or by the people who bothered to show up. If you want real change, you can't just show up every 4 years and expect everything to magically improve. You have to be engaged. You have to pay attention. You have to vote in every election because the decisions being made at all levels of government will shape the way you live your life. And let's address one more thing. The people who say the system is corrupt, so what's the point? If you believe the system is broken, if you believe corruption is rampant, if you believe things need to change, then your vote is even more important. Corrupt leaders want you to be hopeless. They want you to feel powerless. They want you to believe that change is impossible because the moment you give up, they can continue doing whatever they want, unchecked and unchallenged. But when you vote, when millions of people vote, you send a message. We are watching. We are engaged. We will not be ignored. This isn't just about choosing a president. It's about choosing the future you want to live in. It's about making sure the next generation inherits a country that is better, stronger, and freer than the one you were born into. It's about standing up for yourself, your family, your community, and your values, because in the end, the only way to lose is to do nothing.